We'll start. Good morning. Today is April 14th, 2016, and this is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority. In attendance is Chairman Bradley in Albany, Commissioner Kim in New York City. Staff in attendance is General Counsel Flug and myself, Acting Secretary Held. Today's calendar consists of one item. Council's office presented a proposed emergency summary order suspension. It's been marked agenda number 2016-901Q for license serial number Queens OP 1265838, issued to A Rising Banquet Catering Hall LLC. Oh, there is a DBA. Doing business under the name Carriel Banquet Hall. They're located at 12707 94th Avenue, in Richmond Hill. Presented for Council's office is Associate Attorney Buckley. Council?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Bradley, Commissioner Kim. As Deputy Commissioner Helder said, this is an on-premise liquor license that's being referred to the members for a proposed emergency order summary suspension. Just a little background information. There's a sole principal, Gwendolyn Willie, who actually I believe today is her 67th birthday, as I recall, April 14th. In any event, she's a sole principal of this location. In 2011, she applied at this location and was granted a license as a catering establishment. I believe she owns other restaurants. I think one is licensed, some are not licensed, but I believe her method of operation would say the food would come from these restaurants, that there'd be cater events that should be fully supervised, quote unquote, that they would go from 6 p.m. to closing, which would be 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. With a capacity of the premises is on the second floor of an area of Richmond Hill, which as I saw on Google, it's sort of in it doesn't seem to be most of a commercial area. There's the Long Island Railroad tracks going along Atlantic Avenue. Then there's some residential, but it seems to be mostly commercial. But after about a year being licensed as a catering establishment, she applied and was granted to be a full on-premise liquor license to serve to the public, as opposed to a caterer's license only to persons attending the event. But just from looking at the application for the OP license, seems to be just identical, other than she wasn't permitted to have dancing. With a caterer's permit in the city of New York, you can have dancing, with the caterer's permit. And Investigator Stravali has determined that there is no license to have patron dancing issued by the New York City Department of Consumer Affairs at this location. In the event, since she's been issued this full license, there's been several visits as March inspections with Investigator Stravali participating, as well as, that was about a year ago in March of 2015. He went there 2 times in March, and then Investigator Thomas was there in October of 2015, and then there's been an inspection by Vice, NYPD Vice in January of this year, then from the 102nd Precinct Conditions Unit again in January. And each time, essentially, there's been no food, persons dancing, overcrowded on several occasions. There's no tables and chairs. Miss Willie is not there, and each time there appears to be 2 people managing. Carl Sparks is one who has been identified as, or identified himself as, the cousin of the owner, presumably Miss Willie, and then a Lodrick Cunningham, presumably either a manager or security director. In any event, besides these inspections, there's also been now just recently on Monday, this past Monday morning, April 11th, 2 persons were shot as they were exiting the premises at 4:45 in the morning. And as my memo states, this is now the 4th instance of gunfire. 3 times persons have been hit by gunfire in and around this location. One, there was a fight, people were ejected, and some person was denied re-entry, decides to fire some shots in the air across the way. January 2015, someone was robbed as they were making their way to this location and were shot. In November of 2015, someone was shot as they were exiting, and now we have 2 people shot in just this few days ago. So it seems to me that I can only state that I don't think this, obviously this premise is not complying with the application, and as we're in the midst of hearings on prior notices of pleading, the attorney is representing the licensees, Mr. Mailer, and Mr. Mailer and I have obviously had discussions about this case, and I said to Mr. Mailer, this is a location that the police and the liquor authorities constantly going to this location. They're not operating in conformance. There's going to be things that are going to happen when, as Mr. Mailer knows and I know, you have a place it's overcrowded, you have dancing, open to all hours, things are going to happen. And I'm sure Mr. Mailer would argue that these shootings are not the responsibility of the licensee, as he said. But that's not the issue real before the members. The issue is there's a public health, welfare, and safety issue by virtue of all these shootings. And again, who knows what else is going on in this location that have not been reported by the patrons. If there are other altercations going on or other shootings, the authority is not aware of any other incidents really beyond what's been reported to us. So I think there's, it was more or less predictable that these issues are going to happen about gunfire. I mean, there's no, as far as we can see, the last report indicates that there was nobody found who did the shooting, no witnesses, et cetera. I don't know whether that's surprising or not surprising, but it appears to be this is a location where gunshots occur. And it's become, and again, I think it's attributable to the fact that the location is operating not in the way that the liquor authority contemplated issuing this license. That, again, it was designed to be presumably a club-type atmosphere, but with food available. And I think they're trying to have it both ways. They're trying to be like a catering establishment having dancing, but on the other hand, there's no food. And from speaking to police officers who have appeared to testify at this location, basically it's a type of location where people come there that doesn't start to become more popular until the early hours, 1 or 2 in the morning, and then they go on to all hours. Whether or not there's after-hours consumption, there's no indication of that, but as you know, when there's nothing good that happens after 2 a.m., as cliche
Mr.
goes.
Buckley, are you asking for a summary suspension
So
from the
again,
members?
this has been referred to the members to for them to consider a emergency order summary suspension.
Has there ever,
Questions?
sure, yeah. Has there ever been a time when the police have visited and they were actually operating in conformance with their original application?
In conformance?
Yes.
No, every time either the police and or the liquor has been there, it's essentially the same. There's no tables and chairs. It's just a large room with a DJ, no food available, no food stored anywhere. No, each time there's, let's say, 5 or 6 visits. Each time it seems to be operated in a similar fashion.
Does this place have any charges that were sustained that we've done, or is everything just still pending?
Everything is pending. Everything is the hearing stage.
Have any of the shootings occurred inside?
Only to the extent that 2 of them, this past one, as people were exiting, and the one on November 15, as someone was exiting. So, again, this is on a 2nd floor, so presumably this is occurring on the ground floors or exiting, but there's no indication there's been gunfire inside the location per se.
So this instance on November 21st, 2015 at 4 a.m., Richard Fisher was shot in the left wrist as he was leaving the licensed premises. That also occurred outside the premises? There seemed to have been security surveillance camera showing the staff cleaning up the crime scene, and no 911 call emanated from the establishment. So it must have been within the purview of their premises.
Yeah, well, I believe I had a police officer come in and ready to testify as to that, who was called to go to the hospital. And if I recall, his testimony was that Mr. Fisher was not particularly cooperative. He didn't know who shot him. He just all of a sudden was leaving, hears gunshots, and then as he's going to his vehicle, realizes he's got pain and looks and sees he's got, gunfire. So, yeah, again, there's no indication that anyone, from the premises called the police but
Okay.
again, it seems that Mr. Fisher just left the scene and was transported by, I believe, a friend to a hospital.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. So, based on what's before us, it's extremely clear that the licensee has not been operating in the manner for which she was approved to operate this space. She had been granted a catering license, and here, with no tables and no chairs on the premises, the multiple times of dancing without a cabaret license, no food on the premises, and then the instances of violence that's erupted as a result of not operating in conformity with her license application. Multiple people getting shot, no 911 calls emanating from the establishment during that one incident, when clearly their security surveillance camera could have seen something happening, and they knew that what was going on because the staff was on that video cleaning up the crime scene in an attempt to hide what happened. So the public health, safety, and welfare requires us to take emergency action in this case, so I vote to summarily suspend.
I vote to summarily suspend as well. It's obvious that this owner has a complete disregard for her obligations as a licensee, and at a minimum, the staff appears to be less than cooperative when incidents do happen, and it appears a number of violent incidents have happened with patrons exiting the premises, and as Commissioner Kim pointed out, there was security surveillance camera showing staff cleaning up a crime scene after one of those violent incidents, and no 911 call emanated from the establishment, and that incident involved gunshots, so presumably the staff was fully aware of, at a minimum, the shots being fired, and the crime scene itself, which they decided that it was better for them to clean up. They're not following any of the method of it appears they're not following any of the method of operation obligations that they were required to, and I think that the public safety and welfare demands that this license be summarily suspended. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other items.